Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the new G.I. Joe Classified Raptor and General Ledger set. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about the figure, so that if you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, you'll have plenty of info and data to make a decision as to whether this is the guy to spend your money on. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the packaging and then get into the figure, talk about the aesthetic qualities and the visual experience, talk about the articulation and the posing experience, give you a rundown of all the accessories and added value and what they bring to the table, and offer you up some final thoughts. So let's get into it. Let's have a closer look at Raptor, shall we, folks? Let's do it. All right then, folks. Well, here is Raptor as he came out of the packaging, not with any of the accessories on yet. I'll talk about the accessories and get them slapped on him a bit later on in the video, so stick around. But I'm going to talk about the aesthetic qualities, going to talk about the visual experience with the figure to begin with. And as is now the new habit, I'm going to start with a full head-to-toe look of the figure for you there. So you can kind of soak it in and get a feel for it. It's obviously got some vestigial kind of reminiscent elements of the vintage look of the character from the comic books and from the old vintage action figure in the late-ish 80s, but they've obviously done the classified modern reinterpretation game with this one. So even though he's inspired by the nostalgic look and feel, this one very much feels like it sits in the modern reinterpretation camp. So he's got the core kind of, vestigial elements that you'd be looking for. He's bare-chested with the little kind of falcon waistcoat thing going on there. He's got the belt buckle, although that's obviously been sculpted in a more modern contemporary style. The feather motif, the birdy feathery motif throughout, but they've added stuff in like the tattoos. And the sort of general overall feel and the depth and texture of the character is a lot more increased. And of course, when we get to the accessories, we'll see a big leap, a big change in terms of interpreting him in a more contemporary way. Coming in a bit closer, we can expect some of the finer details. Let's have a chat about the face sculpt to begin with. The mask is definitely an eye-catching element of the character. It's got the sculpted-in sort of feather details on it, and then you've got these little kind of metallic little paint application pieces, sculpted-in paint application pieces that give it that more kind of modern kind of technology feel to accompany the wing backpack that we'll be looking at shortly. The face sculpt is good. They always are on G.I. Joe Classified, he says. Falcon! But he's got a very unique kind of look, very clearly defined features. Really, something about that chin, but yeah, look, all the facial features, the nose and around the mouth and the chin and the cheeks and stuff, really great. Some paint applications on the lips and on the eyes, very well applied, very neat and tidy, although I don't know if you can see that there under the lights, but I've got a little bit of paint spill just to the edge of his forehead there. Ears and stuff. The hairstyle's all right. I'm not a fan of this kind of poncy footballer mullet type thing. It's well sculpted. It's well designed. You've got the two tones in the hair colour there for the sort of shaved back bits and then the slicked back section there that he's got making the mullet. It's well sculpted. I just don't like the hairstyle. It's not for me, but still well sculpted piece of work. Another great head sculpt from the G.I. Joe Classified team. Moving a bit further down, you can see all this wonderful sculpted detail in his feathery waistcoat and with the different colours in there as well, giving it a little bit of depth to the figure, and but some nice symmetry in there too to make it appealing on the eye. Got the little pendant there hanging down the front, which of course the vintage figure used to have that pendant on the front there. That feathery motif is then continued. You can see a little bit poking out the top of his gloves, and there's a little bit there poking out at the top of his boots as well, just to keep that kind of avian theme strong throughout, as well as this awesome sculpted belt buckle. Always a big fan of a painted belt buckle, but even more of a fan of a massive, oversized falcon paint buckle with a nice I don't know, kind of metallic look to it. But also the belt and stuff, just these finer details that we're getting with G.I. Joe Classified of late, where each of the belt loops have been painted in, and the belt's got a nice leathery look and feel to the texture of it, which is nice. Oh, actually, while I turned him around here as well, you can see that he's got this tattoo pattern up his back, and while I'm talking about tattoos, he's got his chest tattoos and these ones on the top of his bicep and tricep there as well, which again got nice symmetry to it, make it appealing to the eye, but also give the character a little bit more depth and personality. The gloves and the boots have got, they've got a little bit of that kind of Cobra-y padding motif in there. But they've also kind of brought that in line with the bird design as well. So if you see down on the boot here, this looks like that kind of that skin tone texture of a bird's legs, and of course it's got a bird's claw there with the talons painted on the edge of the boot. Again, just giving it, just really breaking it up, splashing it with a bit of colour. Same with the gloves up the top here. You can see giving it a bit of colour and again, nice bit of symmetry to make it appealing on the eye. This gun holster here is bloody annoying. It flops around loads. When you do sort of put it down here, I keep trying to pull it down so it's not obscuring that wonderful belt buckle. So you have to sort of spin it round his back and kind of hang it down there. But then when you're posing him up, sometimes it just kind of pops loose, and you take your photo and you realise that it's got stuck up there because you were manhandling too much when you were putting him in front of the camera. So yeah, this is a bit of like a floating annoyance that has been doing my head in. And then we got all these like little pouches and stuff, again, all sculpted in with details and texture on them, on both thighs there with various pouches and whatnot, and a little knife holdy bit there. And then the standard texture in the trousers. We've seen these legs many times before. The colours are good. It's not too out there, but it doesn't need to be because the kind of more idiosyncratic, balmy kind of specialism and design on the character is enough to give him some shelf presence. But the colours are good, nice and balanced, and obviously very kind of birdy, falcony kind of colours there. But they're nice. I like the way they complement each other. They're good choices of colours. So visually speaking, in terms of the aesthetic qualities, the core figure gets a thumbs up from me. Interesting figure, got those wonderful sculpted details in that we've come to know, love and expect from G.I. Joe Classified series. Very eye-catching. Obviously, when it comes to talking about the aesthetic of the figure, the accessories that we'll be looking at a little bit later on really plug into and enhance the visual identity of the Raptor character. So we'll take a look at those in a bit. But before we do, let's just have a quick look before I put all the gubbins on him at the articulation and posability. So, as always, folks, it's standard G.I. Joe Classified series articulation scheme. There is a couple of quirks in there, but if you neither need nor want to hear about the articulation, you're already very familiar with it. I put chapter marks in with timestamps so you can jump ahead to take a look at the accessories and added value section. But if you're interested to know about the articulation, or this is the first G.I. Joe Classified series video you have ever watched, I'll give you a quick walkthrough. Now, one thing I will say before I get into this is my Raptor is very crunchy. A lot of his joints feel very restricted and tight, even after applying some heat with a hairdryer. So, yeah, I've given him a bit of heat with a hairdryer. I will do some more remedial action, but I was running out of time to record the video, so I'm just getting into it. So I'll point out where those crunchy points are as we go along. And starting with the head, because we've got the ball at the top of the head and the ball at the bottom of the neck, but his forward there is almost non-existent, look. You see that? Can't barely get any down on him. And his back is no good either because his little mullet gets in the way and doesn't allow him to put his head any further back than that. You can do the full 360, just about. The mullet gets in the way again. And there's a bit of tilt and swivel, but for whatever reason, I can't seem to get much down or much up on him. Now, when it comes to, we'll put the headrest on him in a short while, but so you generally don't want to be doing too much movement there. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And then moving down into the shoulders, I've got some crunchy problems here too. We've got the butterfly joint there underneath the waistcoat, but it's really doesn't give a lot of movement at all. It's very tight and crunchy. Then the peg and the hinge, giving you the full 360 all the way around, and then a very limited T-shape. Can only get his arms up to there, which has been a frustration because one of the kind of key sort of like little posing aspects you want to do is with his falcon on his arm. So I don't know why. I've put loads of heat on that, but I can't seem to get that to go any higher. Then we've got the hinge here at the top of the bicep and tricep, a pinless double elbow that will get you up to there. Then we've got a swivel point of articulation at the top of the glove line here. Can you see that? Which is quite interesting. Very good for, when you're going to be using the falcon with him. And then it's the standard pegged-in hands that can swing all the way around. And these two trigger fingers here, you can see, have got the up and down hinges on them. Into the torso, we've got the ab crunch there. Gives you good forward, good back. Always nice to see that they've painted up the tattoo underneath there. So if you have got him leaning back, there's continuity, although it does fall a bit short at the belt line here. And then we've got the ball joint in the waist giving you some good motion there. Standard drop-down joint in the groin, giving you good forward. Fairly decent Russian ballet splits there. Then swivel at the top of the thigh. That's quite nicely disguised by the straps on the thigh pouches, but you've got a bit of swivel there. Pinless double knee, that'll get you up to there. Swivel point here at the top of the boot, and then the hinge and rocker for the feet. So the articulation scheme is good, folks. I like the G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation scheme, but I can't go full thumbs up because mine out the packet was just like really crunchy, very resistant, and even after applying heat, I've not been able to loosen him up much. Even, I don't know if you can see when I was doing the thigh cut on the legs, still very stiff, very crunchy, and I don't know what's going on with the shoulders and the head. The movement up there is super, super limited, even after giving it like extensive blasts with the hairdryer. Which has narrowed the world of possibility of some of the stuff I've been trying to do when I've been posing him up, which has been frustrating. Now, I'll caveat that, or small print that, as I always do. That could just be mine. That could be mine. You know, others may find themselves having very different experiences. I've just got a bit of a duff one out the factory or part of a batch that was a bit crunchy. I don't know. But it has affected my enjoyment of the figure. And, you know, this particular figure. Okay, so there you go. There's the articulation and posability. Right, let's get to the main event, really. I suppose this is the bit folks have been waiting for. Let's take a look at his accessories and added value. And, of course, to get us started, talking about the visual identity of the character, as I mentioned before, let's have a look at his headrest here. So it's kind of similar to Zartan's hood. Is what I would liken it to. So it's, you know, you can see you've got the little kind of shape at the top there, and you just sort of pop it on down, and it's in this sort of loose, rubbery texture. The sculpting quality of this thing is really good. Got all this lovely feathered textured detail on there. Look at the eyes, these kind of golden, shiny eyes with the pupils on them, and the beak on the front there. The 2 or 3 different kind of colours and washes to give it some depth and some, like, you know, some colour texture there. Which obviously matches up with the feathery texture of his waistcoat down the bottom here. Just really great looking piece of accessory there. And obviously, as I mentioned before, a big part of the visual identity of the Falcon character. Just look at the eyes in that. Amazing. However, what I will say is I'm not much of a fan of this in terms of implementation. I don't know if you can see, but where the bottom line of this sits against the shoulders means it's sort of lifted a bit off the top of his head. You can see that there's actually a bit of clearance there, which makes him look a bit odd. And it doesn't play well when trying to turn his head. So I was trying to take a photo of him feeding the bird before, having it on his arm, and you can see it's kind of, see how it rests and sits high on his head. So you've got all this movement here, and I want it sort of nice and tight. And able to move it without it popping up and showing off loads of forehead like that. So I found myself to be not much of a fan, which is quite a disappointment, if I'm being honest, because, to use the phrase again, it's a big part of the look of the visual identity of this character, you know? So while it's sculpted great and looks great, the way it's implemented, it really limits some of your possibilities. Look at that. Like, if you turn his head all the way around there, so if I want to get him shooting someone like this, pew, pew, just sits funny on the top of his head. Speaking of the Falcon, here it is. Peregrine Falcon, I think. Got the little blind mask on there with a little tuft at the top. Again, nice sculpted detail in the feather texture on the bird. Got the claws with this little peg here. And then on the figure, we've got a little peg hole in there. You know, and you peg it in like that, which is fine. You know, you've got that swivel in the glove too, so you can get it there and you can, you know, kind of thing. But I don't know, it's a bit boring. It's like Polly with Shipwreck, isn't it? It's like it's a part of the character's thing. You know what I mean? It's a part of who they are and what they're all about, and they've obviously made an effort. And you've got a peg hole on both hands as well, so you can put it in either side. But there's no articulation to it. The fact that the shoulders are a bit crunchy and I can't quite get it all the way up, so it's sort of parallel to his face, all that kind of stuff, but it's fine, and I've certainly taken some photos of him feeding the bird and things, so it's there. And then we have the main event, the bit that I'm sure everyone's been waiting for me to talk about. We've got his big, like, mechanical wing backpack thing. So it pegs in on the peg hole on the back. Here it is, you know, taking a look at it from the rear. We can see lots of great sculpted details and interesting elements to give it some texture and some depth. So we've got these little kind of like jet turbine heat engine things there. Got the different colours, the 2 browns to match up with the figure, but then also these kind of metallic pieces in the tail and at the tips of the wings that look like they're some kind of knifey offensive weapon as well, which is a lovely touch, you know, just kind of flicking his wings out and stabbing people. All sorts of rivets and panels and stuff on there. A little bit, you know, a couple of decals there, CM2 and Ripwing, giving it, again, a little bit more flavour and a bit more reality, as much reality as you can with a guy wearing mechanical bird wings. There's several points of articulation as well. So we've got a point of articulation here where the wings join the backpack, which you can move up and down there. Then you've got these hinges bringing the wings in and out. Then you've got a hinge here that allows you to bring the wings back and forward. And then a pin to bring the far section of the wings up and down like so. And here we go. This is how they're looking from the front. So the sort of feather, metal feather kind of piece, you know, obviously looks the same from the front and the back, but you've also here got on the front these kind of spinning turbines here, propeller type things to keep him in the air with the paint application, the brown, but with the metallic silver colour on the inside. So these are fun. You know, they're an interesting modern reinterpretation of the design. You know, obviously the original vintage figure came with a soft goods kind of cape version of the wings, and in the comic books, I'm not even sure what they were in the comic books. So this is a nice little twist, a more contemporary twist in that G.I. Joe Classified series style. I do find sometimes it's like it swivels a bit on the peg there, and I've knocked it out. It comes loose sometimes a little bit too easily, and it took me a little while to get to grips with it. I was playing around with him yesterday, trying to take some photos and sort of fiddling about with some kind of poses using the wings, and it takes a little while to kind of bring what you're seeing in your mind's eye to life there. But once you kind of got the gist of it, they can be a lot of fun, and they do look really, really good. So I suppose your mileage will vary on that, depending on how eager you would have been to have a more kind of classic look, soft goods version of the wing thing, or whether, like me, you're kind of like, yeah, this is cool, this is badass. I know many people have said it, very reminiscent of the Vulture's wings from the first Spider-Man, new Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. But yeah, I like it, and you've got various points of articulation in there. It just takes a bit of kind of fiddling around with and playing and a bit of finessing to kind of get it look like how you want it. And on a flight stand, he looks great, you know, with the wingspan all the way out and, you know, doing things. Then in terms of weaponry selection, Falcon Raptor has got a little 9mm pistol here, which is a single piece of molded plastic with a metallic paint application on the slider there. And then he's got a little knife daggery thing with the black hilt and the metallic paint job on the blade, which I'm always a fan of. These are fine. I'm pretty sure we've seen both of these before in the line, and they've both got on-figure storage. Falcon's got the gun holster there, which I was whinging about before. And then there's a little loop on this thigh pad here for you to slip his dagger into. And then finally, we've got these hand-mounted claws here for Raptor. These are, I think, reused from Nunchuck. 3 kind of Wolverine-style claws that have got a curve in them there, like that, you see. They have their little wraparound handle that you put through the palm of his open palm hands there. And, you know, you just have him slicing people up. They're all right. They're fine. I must admit, I've used these less than I have the little dagger and the pistol, because I'm just not a fan of them. They're a bit, you can see they're a bit kind of squiffy. I need to get a bit of heat on them and straighten them up. And they sit a bit odd on the hand, like the curvature is slightly odd. I could have done with maybe a forward and back hinge rather than an up and down hinge on the hand, but I understand that they're obviously reusing these trigger finger hands for guns, which are up and down. So they're fine. You can do some stuff like with the backpack on him. What was it? There was that promo photo that caught my eye that I really liked, where he kind of had the wing sort of curved over the top and the claws sticking out like that, didn't he? Like a little protecting himself, but about to leap in and slice and dice some Joes. Something like that, I think it was. So yeah, the fun little element. Obviously, open up a wider world of possibility in terms of the way he may choose to pose him. Just not my cup of tea. So the accessory selections, yeah, it's good, it's fine, it's decent. You know, he's got a gun, he's got a knife, he's got some claws. Obviously, the main event is this motorized wing backpack thing, which is cool and fun and a bit different and stands out. The main thing that annoys me is his bloody hood, because I want him to wear it all the time, but even the slightest turn on the head makes it feel like it's sitting really high over his head. Yeah, it's okay. It's given me a range of possibility in terms of what I've posed him up as and displayed him as and taken some photos as, so I'm going to give it a thumbs up on that front. Yeah. Okay, well, let's now take a look at Falcon next to a couple of other G.I. Joe classified figures, shall we? And I'm going to start by popping him next to Destro there. That's the retro card-backed Destro on this side of the screen. Because for me, in the old Action Force comics, that's who Raptor worked for. He worked for Destro. And there was a whole thing where they got into a feud with Storm Shadow and stuff. Yeah, Destro has definitely spent some time on the shelf with my Raptor. Here's Raptor next to the silver face-plated Crimson Guard. That's obviously Fred in there, who he... got up to some shenanigans with in the Real American Hero comic book. Here he is with the new retro card-backed Cobra Commander that I recently reviewed. Or is it Cobra Commander? Is this Fred as well? And finally, here he is with Alpine from the same wave. Review coming soon. And here we are then, folks. Here is Raptor going round on the turntable here, so you can take a good 360 view of the figure. Apologise for my lack of imagination. I've just reused the pose that I was using in the figure comparisons there. Because he's a lot of fun. He's a great figure, and you can get him into some really interesting poses, but it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of like fiddling and finessing to just really get like that taking flight pose, or that protecting himself with the wings, shields kind of pose. A lot of fidgeting and fiddling, which is worth it in the end when you get him in that position that you want him in. You're like, yes, that looks amazing. But I'm a bit tight for time. I've only got a limited recording window. Got to take the dog for a walk. So I've been really lazy. So I apologise for that. But still, it should give you a good appreciation there of the figure all told. And as far as final thoughts go, this is an interesting figure. It's interesting. I've got to admit, I've not enjoyed him as much as I thought I might. When I saw the original digital renders and the original preview, I was like, yeah, fuck me, that's going to be amazing. Look at all that. But I just have found myself gravitating much more towards Road Pig and Alpine and the Iron Grenadier in this wave than I have Raptor, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe it's because he's a bit fiddly and a bit finessy to get him into some interesting positions. But he's fun. He's really fun. I love these Barmy characters, and I'm all for it. I mean, he looks absolutely crazy. So I'm not sure why. I can't quite put my finger on why I've gravitated less to him than I have others, but just telling you how my experience, what it's been like. Otherwise, the only other note is that he takes up a great deal of shelf retail space. He requires a lot of room to really get him posed up and in interesting positions, which when you're like me and you've got limited shelf space and you sort of generally swap your figures around into different displays, can be tricky. So that's something to bear in mind if you're limited for space. But I don't know, get a bit of fishing wire hanging from the ceiling or something. You could do some fun stuff there. And you can definitely do some fun stuff with a flight stand as well. I've been doing that too. So there you go. There's Raptor. I hope you found this useful. If you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, I certainly hope that I've given you a better idea as to whether this is the figure for you and worth your money or not. If you have found it useful, then do all that YouTubey stuff. Click like and subscribe to the channel and drop a little comment down below. What are your thoughts on him there? And share those with me. I love hearing from you guys. Otherwise, it's been fun. Pleasure to have you here with me on MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. Hope to see you around these parts again for another video sometime soon. But, go about your day and, enjoy yourself. Oh, I'll tell you what, as well, there'll be a recommended video in a second that the YouTube algorithm thinks you might like one of my videos to follow up with. So why not check that one out too? All right? Okay, see you later, folks. Take it easy.